Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all sizes and ages. They don't say sizes anymore.
No, I don't think you can say that.
Because that's like body shaming now. You can't say
Yeah,
sizes and
cannot say
ages. You
that.
can't say sizes no more.
You can say ages
A
though.
You can
lot of
say
stuff is
ages.
politically correct nowadays, you
Now you
know?
can't say sizes no more, man. We don't point out people's sizes, man. All right, boys and girls, let's get to it. Ebro and Laura have welcomed back to the program after a 3-year hiatus. Mayor Adams is back on the show.
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning, good morning. It's great to be back on the show. You know,
Listen.
I'm out of purgatory.
Now, listen, we was reaching out. You was dodging us. I don't think you wanted to get into it with me.
Brother, nothing I enjoy more than sparring with you, man. There's no place I don't go. You know that. Come on, that's
Listen,
not new.
all I know is the facts, man. We was reaching out, and you wasn't there. Your team wasn't having you come on, but now you are in motion to get or to keep your mayoral job, and so now you're back on the program. We appreciate you joining us. Let's get right into it. The news says Mamdani is the front runner. That's what the polls are saying. What do you say to that?
And I like how you laid that out because that's important. If we go back a few months ago, what were those same polls saying? They were stating that Andrew Cuomo was up by 36 points, and even the day before the election, he was up by 10 points. And we know what happened. He lost by 13 points. And so the issue that I see is that this is all about new voters. This is about those voters who are traditionally not called when you are polling. And that's why people keep missing the mark. We just got to stay focused and do what we normally do. And if you go back, Ebro, when I ran in 2021, you remember what happened? I was 13 points behind Andrew Yang. 13 points. Andrew Yang was beating me 2-1 around black men. And I knew what we had to do. He was doing that UBI, universal basic income. Right,
Yep.
right. And so it's about the work and it's about getting out there. Like I was out in Harlem with a group of brothers with, I think they call it Heaven in Harlem. And, you had about 3,000 brothers and sisters out there. And I was excited about that energy. And this is what I do, get on the ground.
So now, speaking of you up in Harlem, is that where we saw you doing pull-ups or chin-ups?
No, that was in Canarsie.
Oh, okay. Because now, listen, man, they give out tickets for people working out on city lights and stoplights and all that. You can't, come on, man. It's a double standard, man. You out here doing chin-ups. And then we got to talk about these chin-ups, man. Those wasn't even pull-ups. Them was chin-ups. What's going on? We got to get you back in the gym.
Yeah, listen, without a doubt, man. And I do it every morning. I'm out back in the gym. At 64, this body is still exercising daily, staying in shape.
There you go. Now, how do you think you're going to regain the trust of the New York City voter? You listen. We're not going to mince words here. The federal government brought charges against you, and everyone, including myself, saw Donald Trump give you a pass. And so then the case goes away. People don't trust why it went away. People have lost trust in your handling of that information and the information we got, the straw donors. A lot was made over the flights and all of that, but I think the more egregious accusation was the fact that they said that there was money, city money, the 8 times matching money that went to your campaign. How are you going to gain people's trust?
You got to speak directly to people. But let's peel that apart for a moment because many people didn't read the indictment. I'm happy that you seem to have read layers of it, but a lot of people just went through the headline. So what was I charged with, and when did I get charged? I got charged when I talked about the 237,000 migrants and asylum seekers that came to the city without any financial support. And it cost us, Ebro, it cost us $7 billion, $7.7 billion to be exact. And after 10 trips to Washington, after 2 meetings with the president, it was clear that they were ignoring what was happening to the city. And I had a good relationship with Biden prior to the migrants and asylum seeker. So when I started to talk about that, I was targeted, and it was clear lawfare. You saw what happened. I was charged with calling the fire department and asking them to do a building inspection, not to pass anybody. Just go do your job and do a building inspection. And after that, they connected with leg room upgrades for flights I paid for, but just asked for additional leg room. They was charging me with bribery and facing 33 years in prison over it. And so let's look at the volunteer who allegedly did something wrong, not a staffer, a volunteer. For I did six around 500 or so fundraisers. I don't know the exact number, but it was a couple of hundred fundraisers. I had over 700 volunteers. It appears that one of those volunteers did something inappropriate. Everyone would tell you in these campaigns that people do these straw donors dumbness. And I clearly told people all the time, you got to follow the rules. There's not one shred of evidence that said I told someone to do something inappropriate. And you know from the streets, brother, people get their ass in trouble. They started lying on people to save themselves. I never broke any laws, never broke any rules. And if we want to say that Donald Trump did something for me, I did not know President Trump. I met President Trump when he ran for office at the Alfred E. Smith dinner. Was the first time we met. He was on the campaign trail saying, look what they're doing to that mayor. That is wrong what they're doing to that mayor. He knew what he went through in lawfare. And President Biden said his Justice Department was politicized when he pardoned his son. President Biden said that. But you know what? We don't even got to go back to the history of the federal government on black and brown leadership. Let's just look at Brian Benjamin. The same office took Brian Benjamin, the highest ranking black in the state. He contributed discretionary dollars to a nonprofit in Harlem, and they indicted him because they said he did it because of campaign dollars. The judge dismissed the case, destroyed Brian Benjamin's life.
And are you talking about precedent at this point? Because I mean, there's plenty of corruption and things that have taken place in law systems and politics. But the summary of your charges: there was bribery, there was conspiracy, there was wire fraud, and there was soliciting campaign contributions. You're saying the straw donors, there was no evidence for the straw donors, and you feel like that's why that got dropped. But I think the quid pro quo was what a lot of the public was talking about, because Donald Trump and his border czar Homan wanted access to the city and the sanctuary city, and people felt like you sat on that couch at Fox News when Tom Homan put his hand on your thigh and y'all was giggling and laughing. They felt like you did a quid pro quo to get out of the situation you was in nice and smooth, so that now that they can put pressure on the city like they are running up on basketball games and ICE is running through the city, they feel like you cut that deal. So I'm asking you again, how do you get the public's trust back?
But we gotta go back to that, brother, because the way you get it is you got to tell the accuracy of the story and exactly what happened. You said there was a quid pro quo. I had to raise my hand in federal court, and the question was asked by the federal judge under the threat of perjury: was there anything offered to me, or did I offer anything to the administration, the Justice Department? And the answer was no. Clearly, look at what I was saying about the migrants and asylum seekers, and particularly those dangerous gangs. What I was saying pre-election and what I said post-election. It's the same thing. Before I knew who was the president, I was saying the same thing. Dangerous gangs cannot remain in our city committing some of the crimes that they did. Now, let's look at where we are right now, because the charges are dismissed and it can't come back. I took the White House to court for migrant and other related issues more than any mayor in the country. So if people saying that, okay, Eric, you'll be holding to the White House, I took the White House to court more than any mayor in the entire United States. But when I needed the White House, such as the wind farm project in Sunset Park, a multi-billion-dollar project that they put a stop work order on, I flew to Washington and explained to the president why important it was. And they lifted that stop work order, and I got those 1,500 union jobs. So no, there was never a quid pro quo. That was the narrative that was put out there that people wanted to continue to politicize not only the Justice Department, but politicize what I've done in this city. We turned this city around, bro. People don't want to deal with that,
Well,
but we
and
turned this
I'm
city
glad
around.
I'm glad you brought that up, Laura, and you know,
Yes.
a lot of people, you know, have grown to not like you after knowing you in this city for a long time because of a lot of the things we just discussed. And when you become, I don't know any mayor of New York City that is that can make everybody happy. I don't. It doesn't exist, right? Like it's never
Right,
existed.
right.
It's never happened. I don't know if it's possible. But I have been on the air and I have said that there are things, policies, and things that you have done that have been great for the city. There have been some things. I think one of the things that has worked against you is, and I think me and you we talked about this. You have an arrogance and an ego about you. And I think that has worked against you in this job, right? Because you are somebody who comes from policing. You still have the posturing of a police officer, and sometimes that can be off-putting in a job like this, right? It can be very condescending and dismissive in many ways. But I have talked about the fact that while that might be the tone, there has been things that I've heard you've done that I heard that you have done for people in this city that have worked out well. But once again, I think the narrative against you, gaining people's trust, the narrative, the mistakes that you have made, right? I think those are the areas where you're gonna in this race have to get people to turn around, and that's the uphill battle that you have.
Oh, without a doubt, brother. But let's go back to, because those are very important points you raised. Let's go back to my posture, brother. You know, people talk about me being mayor, borough president, first black borough president, state senator, first black to chair racing and gaming in the state, captain in the police department. They look at all of that, brother. That's my glory, man. That's not my story. My story is walking into a third grade classroom and seeing on the back of the chair a dumb student because of my undiagnosed dyslexia. I was mocked throughout my elementary school. People would mimic how I read because I fumbled over words. My story is living on the verge of homelessness. You know, mommy gave us a garbage bag full of clothing, brother, to take to school every day because she thought the marshal was going to throw us out. It's being arrested and beat by police officers, but having to get off that damn floor and then go into that same police department and start 100 blacks in law enforcement who care. You better have confidence, man, when you are dealing with being a black man at this level. I'm the second black mayor in the history of this city, who many people don't believe are supposed to be here. What we've done on MWBEs, I brought a black and brown leadership into City Hall is so that we can govern during difficult times. I cycled us out of COVID. I cycled us out of the migrant asylum seekers. I cycled us out of the public safety. We built the housing that we were missing, $19 billion in MWBEs. If you don't have a level of confidence,
MWBEs is minority.
you're done.
MWBEs for the audience who may not know what that is.
Yes.
Don't use that language. Is minority and black women entrepreneurship, right?
Exactly. And no one in the country has done that. No one in the country has reached those numbers of women and minority-owned businesses, those small businesses. We broke records in housing, as you indicated. And I'm glad you talked about some of this, many of the successes that we've had. We broke records in affordable housing. We paying off college tuition for foster care children so they don't slip through the cracks. No low-income New Yorker in the city now pays income tax because of what we've done. Dropped the cost of child care from $220 a month to less than $20 a month. When you start racking up the W's we have, no one has done the stuff that we've done for working class people like we have in the city. And so, yes, people say, well, you come up with too much confidence. I better have that confidence, man. That'd eat me alive in this city if I didn't have the confidence to walk into that classroom, embarrassed, humiliated, and still move forward and excel. I wouldn't be where I am right now. You don't become the second black mayor in this city, the greatest city and the most important city in America, if you didn't have a level of confidence.
Mayor Adams, let's go back to ICE, right? With over 3 million immigrant families living in New York City. That's what New York City is, right? We've seen some of the most brutal attacks from ICE with everyday people. And I'm not talking about the criminals, because I think we can all agree, yes, if somebody is a criminal, they should be in jail. They should be arrested. I'm talking about the
Yes.
families that are going to court appointments, doing it, quote unquote, the right way, and being arrested, being basically kidnapped by ICE. And it's happening here in New York City. As the mayor of New York City, a lot of people are like, how could you allow this to happen? So I'll throw it over to you. What is your message to the immigrant community who is suffering and seeing all of this happen?
Well, first of all, sister, you're right. This is a city of immigrants on many levels, and we have been very clear to our immigrant community. 237 migrants and asylum seekers came here to join even more undocumented people who were here in the first place. We told them go to school, go to the hospital if you need medical care, call the police if you need assistance, all those things that they should do, and we've done it well. Immigration enforcement is a federal issue, a federal issue. So when we witness the violation of the rights of those, like you just indicated, that went to court, many of them went to court because we put them through the process. 112,000 we put through the process with our free legal services to allow them to get to the step to go to court. That's the work that we've done. Once they do something in court that is inappropriate, we took the administration and did amicus briefs to say this is wrong. This should not be happening to people when they go inside the court. And we raised our voice on that. That is the extent of my authority when it comes down to the enforcement of immigration rules. We do not coordinate with ICE in civil enforcement. That is against the law. We do not coordinate with them. We coordinate when it goes after dangerous gangs like the ones we took down, 27 gang members, forcing migrant women into prostitution, holding their documentations, threatening them, selling guns. That's who we focus on. There's no record of us focusing on any civil enforcement. And when we see the violation of it, we have gone to court, which is within my powers and authority to do so.
But just for clarity, to Laura's question, you're saying the extent of what you can do to fend off ICE apprehending people in the courthouse when they're trying to do things the right way is through a lawsuit. That's the
Right,
extent of what you and your administration can do to protect people in the city.
And use our bully pulpit as we have been using. If the police or any city employee interferes with ICE taking an action physically, they are now charged with obstruction. And obstruction is not the obstruction you're talking about in the police, it's federal obstruction. That's a serious charge. And the city can assist that employee in court. But if that employee is convicted, that's the end of the line. They're facing a 5-year federal prison sentence if they are found guilty of obstruction.
Now, Kristi Noem just yesterday is blaming you, sanctuary city laws. You know, they're claiming they're going to, fully, I guess, I don't know, run through uptown Washington Heights because of what happened with the plainclothes shooting and shootout yesterday with a criminal, day before yesterday, whenever it was, with the criminal and this Border Patrol officer getting shot in the face. And now the narrative is blame New York City's mayor. What do you have to say?
I'm so glad you said that, brother, because as you said earlier in the conversation, you can't please everyone in the city being the mayor. So on one side of the end, I got one group saying Eric is not doing enough for the immigrants and migrants. And on another side, I got that Eric is blocking us from doing anything for the migrants and the immigrants. So the question is, you got to do what's best in your heart. Let me tell you this. I will always tell documented and undocumented people, you pay taxes when you go in and buy that loaf of bread. You pay taxes. Those taxes allow you to have the goods and services that come with the city: schools, hospital, police service, all the other services. And I'm going to continue to tell my immigrant brothers and sisters, documented and undocumented, that they have a right to do so. And so when you see both sides, the left and the right, are saying the problem of immigration is Eric Adams' problem, the mayor's problem, or Mayor Johnson in Chicago, or Mayor Bass in Los Angeles. This is dropped in the cities, where the cities have no authorization around the immigration federal policies. We're giving a pass to our federal electeds because we're looking at the mayors, and all of these mayors are carrying the weight of this. Instead of asking, what are the federal authorities doing? That's not our job. Our job is, we don't stop people from coming across the border. We take care of people when they're in their cities. And, sister, let me tell you something. When national immigration leaders, I invited them to New York to see what I was doing. They said, Eric, we're not coming there. You anti-immigrant. And I said, well, why don't you just come and walk through and see what we're doing? 8 national immigration leaders came to New York and spent the day here, saw what we were doing for free legal services, educating 50,000 students, paying for housing, food, clothing. They spent the whole day with us and had dinner with me at Gracie Mansion after the spending the day. You know what they said? They said, man, we need to apologize to you. No one in the country is doing what you're doing. And we're going back to our cities and we're writing a letter to the federal government and say they need to follow Mayor Adams' model on what Mayor Adams have treated people with dignity and respect. I met the first bus that came in here with children. I slept in a shelter with the migrants and asylum seekers to show them that we treat you with dignity in this city. When everyone else was pushing away people, we embraced them and we treated them with dignity. And not one child or family slept on the streets of the city of New York because of what we've done. And 90% have gone on to the next step of their journey.
And what you're referring to when you talk about the control of influx of individuals in and out of states and in and out of the country is Republican governors putting, specifically down in Texas, putting migrants on buses and sending them, lying to them about where they're going, first and foremost, and sending them to cities like New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, et cetera, without a plan. And the federal government not stepping in and dealing with that directly. Am I correct? That's what you're referring to.
100%. Ebro, we were getting 4,000 migrants and asylum seekers a week, 8,000 every 2 weeks. And at one point, you do the math. We had to feed, house, and clothe, and we did it. That's what's really being missed here. We did it like no others. I went down to El Paso, Texas, on the border. I saw people sleeping on the streets in front of churches, inside airports. We didn't do that here. We had a real intake system where we made sure children were educated in school. We made sure that we fed, housed, and clothed. We treated people with the dignity they deserve. And the narrative had been turned upside down that this administration was anti-immigrant when there's no history of that, not only with the migrants and asylum seeker crisis, but throughout my entire life. I've been embraced by the immigrant community in this city like no other administration has been embraced. You go throughout this city, from the Chinese to the Caribbean to the Haitian, to the Russian speaking. What we have done to bring in everyone under this big tent is unprecedented, and not only in a symbolic way, but also in a substantive way.
You're running as an independent. What do you say? You had a point in your time where you weren't a political person at this time, but they say you were a Republican at a certain point. You ran as a Democrat. Now you're running as an independent, and Cuomo's also running as an independent. Is this because you have zero support from the Democratic Party? Tell us why the whole decision to run as an independent, for those that don't understand.
Well, thanks. That's a good question. I'm still a Democrat. We need to be clear. I'm clearly still a Democrat. The rules allow you to run on your own line and retain your Democratic status. Like Madani's going to run on the Rookins Family Party line. He's a Democratic Socialist party affiliation. Cuomo is running on the independent line. So we're still Democrats. You don't lose your Democratic. And even Curtis Sliwa is running on an independent line as well as the Republican line. I think he's running on a pet friendly line, something like that. So we filed our petition, 25,000 signatures, because that's how you get the right to run on a line, by filing petitions. We filed our petition. Judge Holt did not put in the dismissal of indictment until the day before we were supposed to turn those petitions in. And although his independent expert said that the case should be dismissed, he held on to it. It didn't give us the appropriate amount of time to really campaign like we wanted to. So now this gave us the runway to do exactly what you asked me in the first question. I now have the ability to go out and use the campaign dollars that I raised to tell my story. Our story has yet to have been told, of what we have done to turn around this city. Now I get to do through mail-ins, through social media, through television ads, through all of those other ways that I did when I ran the first time. I can tell my story of a working class person that became a working class mayor.
Mayor Adams, well, while we have you for, I think we still have you for a few minutes. I want to go back to you dodging our program because I didn't want to spend too much time on that in the beginning. Tell us the truth, man. Why you wasn't coming on our show?
Oh, brother, you know one thing from me. I say it over and over again, and I laugh about it.
Why you wasn't coming up here, Mayor Adams?
I never run, never will, brother.
Listen, you was going up to see Flex. You know Flex don't talk politics. Come on, man. You was supposed to come see me. We were supposed to sit out. We were supposed to be having this conversation the whole time.
Bro, one of the most enjoyable moments I had when I was borough president is running was politically sparring with you. You bring, it's like Muhammad Ali and Walt Frazier. You bring out the best of me, I bring out the best in you. Who are we kidding, man? We enjoy sparring, talking about these important conversations because they're complicated.
No, it is. It's hard.
When I was either in the studio or talking with you, is that you knew the depth of these conversations and we were able to have politically spar. We're not going to agree on everything, but one thing's for sure.
Well, we're not supposed to. That's not even, and real talk, we're not supposed to.
Without doubt.
We're not supposed to agree on everything.
Because I don't agree with myself all the time. Like you said, man, I dropped some balls, man. I made some mistakes. You don't get to 64 years old without trusting people you should not have trust, without people breaking your heart. That's life. But you know what? I got up every day, man. I got up and I delivered for the city. And people that think that this dyslexic, bald-headed guy could run a city this complex, but we did. More businesses are in this city, in the city's history. Crime, homicides, and shootings are at the lowest in this last 6 months in recorded history of the city. We broke housing records. What we're doing for children with dyslexia, screening them early so they don't end up in jail. I've been on Rikers Island more than any man in the history of the city, speaking to inmates. I got rebaptized with inmates, sat down next to them and said, listen, man, I'm one of you. This is the legacy of this administration. An ordinary guy, nothing prestigious about me. And you know what? I wanted to stand up and represent Black and brown men with a level of strength and show that we can lead. And I did it. First Black, first deputy mayor in the history of the city, first Trinidadian deputy mayor, first Filipino deputy mayor, first East Indian deputy mayor, first Panamanian to be a chief advisor, first woman of color to be a police commissioner, first Spanish-speaking police commissioner. You look, first Korean to go into small business services. I diversified this city and we were successful. So when you remove the noise and go pound for pound and use all the analytics to determine the success of an administration, we knock it out the park. And that's why bond rate is.
So let me ask you this. Yes. I don't recall you being anti-de Blasio. I don't really think it was a contention. If I recall correctly, I don't really recall, but I'm gonna leave that up to the internet. So I'm sure they'll find whatever they're gonna find. But looking at what de Blasio went through, the narratives, et cetera, prior to you having the job, now you've had a run at the job. What can you share for us as the voting public about this job? Because, like, I look at de Blasio, people had negative, that he couldn't make everybody happy either. You know what I mean? And
Right.
and everybody had something to say. What was wrong? What was this? What was that? What was And I look back and I go, all right, but how is that any worse than what's going on with Mayor Adams right now?
Yeah,
And
that's a great question.
right, so
Mhm.
like when you look
Yeah.
at his time as mayor and now your time at mayor, what have you done better? And what mistakes have you made that you thought you could actually get something done and you failed at?
Well, we got a lot done, and I encourage people to go online and look at what we call our win list. It's just unbelievable when you think about what we did, cycling out of COVID, cycling out of the asylum seeker crisis, cycling out of criminal justice, getting people back on the subway, etc. So we got a lot done. But I think your question is a good one because the difference from what I see in this administration and the previous administration, because de Blasio had some real challenges with COVID. I mean, we had to shut down the city. What as a mayor, that you're always going to come under criticism from the media. That's the nature of the beast. But at the same time, they normally report on the good wins you have. You go look back from day one until now, 3 years, 7 months later, and say, well, let me do an analysis. Have they reported any of the good stuff that the mayor has done? No, no. I bump into people all the time. I go to these town halls and I share what we have done. When I sit down to have dinner with my son and we talk, he always say, Dad, I didn't know that. People don't know our story. People don't know what we've done for people with severe mental health.
That's your team's fault. You could have been coming up here the whole time when De Blasio was mayor. No, I'm being dead ass. When De Blasio was mayor, we knew that the Post was gonna say what the Post was gonna say.
Of course.
Wall Street Journal's gonna do what they gonna do. They all in cahoots on that side. You got the Daily News is gonna do what they're gonna do, and then somewhere in the middle. So us being on this box every day for New York City and a local focused show, the reason we reach out is because we want to be able to tell the real stories and how it affects people's everyday lives. The things they should actually be looking for, not the narrative shaping, right? Because the police union's going to do some narrative shaping. And this union's going to spend money in the newspaper to do some narrative shaping. And the big real estate's going to be spending their marketing dollars to shape narratives. And everybody's got there because they want to be able to stay in control of the way the money moves and the power moves in the city. But regular everyday people don't have that luxury, man. Just tell us, man, what are the opportunities for us to make a few more dollars? What are the improvements and the investments that the city's making in my everyday life? And that's why we was always reaching out. But I understand you was running around doing conservative programs, trying to bring them people to the table, and you was out here, doing these games, and admit you was dodging us because you thought you was going to get that smoke. But the real reason was we wanted you up here so that you could talk about the actual policies and things that were affecting everyday New Yorkers. And that was a miss. I'm telling you right now, that was a miss.
Yeah, and I want to be real clear with you because you alluded to it several times, and I want to be clear. At no time has it ever been presented to me by the team that, hey, Ebro wants you to talk. I always enjoy speaking with you, always. It's a good exercise for me at no time. And if ever I knew, and I'm going to speak with the team because you're telling you were reaching out, that has never come to my ears. Now, a lot of stuff has been going on. Trust me, brother.
No, y'all been busy. Feds is snatching phones, people resigning. Y'all had a lot. Listen.
Yeah, no, listen, man. But let me tell you something.
They was running down on you, Mayor. Mayor, they was running down on you.
Yeah, it was almost like the 86 Mets, brother. It was like the 86 Mets. I think it was 86. Gooden was doing his stuff. Dow Strawberry was doing his stuff. But you know what? They won the ring. And so, yes, we had a lot of stuff going on.
Let's hope you wasn't doing what Daryl and Gooden was doing. Please. Don't somebody going to take this outtake and they're going to be like, wait a minute, what's happening over there at Gracie Mansion? What type of parties they have?
A lot was going on, but you know what? We got it done. And know what? A lot goes on in all of our lives. A lot went on with my mother raising the six of us on her own, but she got it done. She got us through college and high school. A lot goes on in all of our lives. And anyone who's not having a lot going on, they're not living life. So yes, a lot went on, but when you do an analysis, did we deliver for the people of this city? It's difficult to say no, we did not. We delivered. And so if my team did not do that connection, because oftentimes teams have their own agendas and we're not familiar with it when you're trying to run this complicated city. I've never had a problem coming on your show. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it interacting with you. I enjoyed sparring with you on these political topics because they were always good, healthy conversations.
Now, before we go, Laura, one thing Laura's been very upset about, and like a lot of people in the city, is the budget cuts and libraries being
Yes.
cut. And
That was one thing, that Mayor, that I was really looking forward to talking to you about because, all of us are parents or everyone has children. And when we saw the headlines, the public schools, budgets have been cut. It's affecting the libraries. The libraries are closing partially on certain days. All of those things had a lot of parents very shook and worried, especially with the insane prices when it comes to childcare, right? And to me, I am very passionate about after school programs because I believe they are needed to keep our kids out of trouble. So for the parents and for the people who are very passionate about it, what do you have to say? Like, if you were to get reelected again, like how are you going to handle this?
Well, so let's do this for a moment, Laura, because it's very important what you just said. We have placed more children in pre-K, 3K than any other mayor. 150,000 we placed in. We just did universal after school program where children are going to learn robotics, tennis lessons, languages, etc. Universal. And you just talked about childcare. We dropped the cost of childcare from $220 a month to less than $20 a month. And so all those headlines gives a narrative, but it's not true. We baseline the dollars in our cultural institutions and others. And baseline means it can never go away. It will always be in place. And so when you really dig into the story and not just the headline, you're going to see we have done more for children and families than any administration in this history of this city.
Wait, so you telling me you didn't cut the public school budget?
No, we did not. Matter of fact, we did something called held harmless, meaning although their student population dropped, we still gave them the same dollar amount because we knew there was learning loss due to COVID. Now, during the budgetary cycle, when the council and the mayor's office go back and forth and spar over the budget, it's not the final product. That's the negotiation part. That's
so
the
wait,
part
hang on right there. It's important for the learning for the audience.
Yes.
So the narrative we get is you guys ping-ponging, sparring back and forth about what it should be.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
then we didn't see that. We didn't really get the headline on the final outcome, is what you're saying.
Right, exactly. They're giving you the in between the innings. You know what I'm saying? You go back and forth. You talk about because remember we had a multi-billion-dollar hole that was left from the federal government. So now we have to figure out what are we going to take off? What are we not? And we go back and forth with the city council to get the final product. And the final product, there was not the cuts that they talked about in the first inning. They didn't tell you what happened at the end of the game, that everyone was held. There was no cuts to the libraries. We put in place those programs that were going to sunset. We were able to really go after those important programs for children and families, and they did extremely well under this administration.
Well, listen, voting does not happen until November, correct?
Yes.
So between now and then, we will be reaching out again if we hear or want to update on any of your platforms and plans. Moving forward into your next term, I'm going to give you an opportunity here, 30 seconds, because I know you got to go, to let voters know what are your priorities if you are elected by voters to keep being the mayor of New York City.
Number one, public safety. We have to continue to be safe, drive down crime even more, and then focus on families. Moving forward to build housing. We did our city of yes. We're now building more houses throughout the city. We have to bring down the lack of housing to bring down the cost of housing, and then putting money back in the pockets of New Yorkers more. We put $30 billion back in the pockets of New Yorkers, paying off medical debt, reduced fare Metro card, free high-speed broadband for NYC residents. I'm going to look at what we do as a city to put money back into the pockets of New Yorkers so we could challenge the cost of living in the city and in this country. So it's about safety, it's about families, and it's about making sure our seniors can get the quality of life that they deserve because they made the city what it is. And listen, thank you guys for letting me come on. And I look forward. And you should hit me. I'm gonna make sure you get my direct cell.
Listen, I don't hang out in the clubs like that. I don't smoke hookah, so that's probably why. You know what I'm saying? I haven't seen you enough.
Listen, let me tell you something. I revitalized our $30 billion nightlife industry.
Now, like you said, you was out here testing the product.
That's right. Good to see you, brother.
All right, take care, man.
Laura. Thanks for having me on.
Mayor.
Hey, listen, man, you got a big battle ahead of you. This Mom Donnie.
Okay.
You and Mom. It's really you and Mom Donnie. It feel like Cuomo, and you got a battle with Cuomo too.
It's all right, brother. We're used to battles, you know. Let me tell you what a battle is. Battle is getting through that third grade, be called a dumb student, and still going on to become the mayor of the city of New York. With God in your life, everything is possible.
There you go. Mayor Adams, thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Take care.